imaginary landscape constructed of a studio interior, since the space is as rich in floral abundances as it is in conventional studio props. Moroccan Landscape, 1912. Moroccan Garden, Pervenche, 1912. Henri Matisse, in his experience of North Africa, has quickly integrated his perceptions of a new and unfamiliar environment with his habitual matured manner of structuring a landscape. The rose of the sky is joined to the greens of the foreground through the color and structure of the tree trunk, and the foliage is rendered in large patches held together in the distance by billowing arabesques. These in turn contrast with the few specific individual leaves that are summarily indicated in the foreground. The route that was traversed can be seen not only in landscape paintings per se, but in the many glimpses of exteriors seen through open windows. Zora, the Yellow Dress, 1912. Zora on the Terrace, 1912. With this crouching study of the Tangier model, Zora, Matisse creates the centerpiece of a new tripartite composition. The artist places his model outside, on a rooftop under blazing sunlight, with a minimum of accessories. But the intensity of the light is muted by a pale green shadow that supports this color in Zora's dress, much as the blue of the carpet functions for the lower part of her dress. The clear patch of sunlight in the upper left is balanced by a matching hue in the goldfish bowl in the lower right. As for the goldfish bowl, an element curiously out of context here, it is simply a reference to a motif that the artist was currently exploring in many different versions in his studio. In effect, given its placement, we might think of the goldfish as Matisse's monogrammed signature to this picture. Entrance to the Kasbah, 1912. This painting is the right wing of the triptych that the artist produced during his second trip to Tangier. Although there is a sketchily realized seated figure in the shadow at the left, this picture is almost exclusively concerned with rendering a tightly defined architectural space as seen under the violent contrasts of light and shade typical in North Africa. The blue circle of sky is barely distinguishable from the blue of the arched passage. The blue shadows of the foreground are only slightly more saturated, perhaps chiefly to support the intense pitch of the pink stream of sunlight on the pavement. In the picture we are offered a broad panorama of the city, perhaps from the artist's hotel room, whereas here the view beyond is constricted with respect to both width and depth. Madame Matisse, 1913. The mask-like face is modeled in gray, and the features are picked out by a series of curved lines that structurally relate to the general shape of the head. The blue-suited body is flattened, its contours closely related to the green outline of the wicker chair. The play of blue and green, the former dominating, is accented by an orange stole, which likewise relates on the left side to the vertical of the chair and body arm, but on the right cuts across it. Its function is largely to prevent the disappearance of the figure in the relatively uniform blue background, which gives no hint as to specific environment. Madame Landsberg's portrait, 1914. White and Pink Head, 1914. Composition, The Yellow Curtain, 1914. The picture presents a daringly abstract landscape and frame, which are contrasted with the relatively realistic handling of the curtain at the left. The green areas of the architectural border are so flatly treated that the landscape beyond is almost literally a picture within a picture, and might even be read as a boldly simplified painting hanging on a studio wall. The curtain is actually red with a green floral pattern, and its reverse side, yellow, is seen in only two places, where it's fluttered back into the room as the result of a breeze. Its yellow is nearly identical to the yellow ochre ground of the landscape, a broad, flatly painted area which vibrates against two areas of relatively pale hue, the sky at the top and the elliptical form at the bottom, an area that might also be read as the pool of a small garden. Interior, Fishbowl, 1914. Goldfish, 1915. The fish in their round aquarium are placed on a table in front of a window in a curious, decoratively cubistic manner. The space through the open window has been arbitrarily altered, interrupted by an inexplicable dislocation of what might be wall panels or window shutters, which are moved to the center, forming a dark vertical register. In this quasi- or neo-cubist picture of a view through an open window, Matisse has managed to indicate three separate environments, namely, reading from back to front, the sky of the exterior, the water of the aquarium, and the space of the interior. The Green Dress, 1916. Greta Prozor's portrait, 1916. Tree, nearby Trivaux, 1916. Bathers by the River, 1916. This painting remained in the artist's studio for 7 years before being completed in his neo-cubist manner. He did not completely paint the figures that he had commenced in 1910. What seems clear from the surviving passages is that the figures were originally smaller, and that in the final painting they were enlarged so that they equal the entire height of the picture. Indeed, the figure at the right is so elongated that her feet are cut off by the bottom of the frame. The Moroccans, 1916. The architecture of the upper left evokes entrance to the Kasbah, and the display of melons and their leaves is suggestive of the limpid, lyrical design of Moroccan garden. These elements are situated one above the other on the left side. On the right, we find a group of Moroccans at prayer, and this is the most challenging, hard-to-read part of the composition. However, their gestures of supplication are somehow clarified